Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty snap an 8-week winning streak after shares fall on Friday. 60% of Nifty stocks are negative for the week. Real estate and IT stocks decline the most.
Trading in index options specifically close to expiry then starts to resemble a slot machine in a casino, with individuals putting coins into the machine, hoping
SEBI
to hit the jackpot.
signals more action to curb derivatives volumes. Apart from the steps prescribed in the consultation paper, equates trading on expiry day to a casino machine. The Finance Ministry estimates collections from small savings schemes to fall by 11% this fiscal. Sources say estimates are lower as more investors shift towards equities and mutual funds. Tech giant Apple's third quarter earnings beat estimates. Overall revenue rises 5%. CEO Tim Cook says revenues hit a record high in 24 countries, including India, even as sales drop in China. The top bureaucrat in UP calls automobile executives for a meeting after tax incentives to hybrid cars divide the industry. Sources say Hyundai, M&M, Tata Motors and Kia have opposed the special treatment. Maruti, Toyota and Honda have supported the tax waivers for hybrid vehicles. The death toll due to landslides in Kerala's Wayanad crosses 300. Rescue operations continue for the fourth day amidst inclement weather. Around 300 people still missing. The Supreme Court rules that it did not cancel the NEET medical examination for undergraduates as there had been no systemic breach, but observes that the National Testing Agency must avoid flip-flops. Directs the centre-appointed expert committee to submit its recommendations on exam reforms by the 30th of September. Also asks the government to take a decision on the revamp by the 30th of October. The assassination of the political leader of Hamas does not help the ceasefire talks, says US President Joe Biden, adding he had a very direct conversation with Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu. Air India suspends flights to Tel Aviv as tensions mount in the region. The US State Department says Nicolas Maduro, who lost the elections in Venezuela, even as election authorities in the country declared him the winner. US claims overwhelming evidence shows Maduro's rival, Edmundo Gonzalez, won the presidential polls. All of that is coming up for you, but let's start with the market action this Friday. A sharp fall that we saw towards the end of trade, wiping out the gains clocked this week. With this, the Sensex and the Nifty have snapped a winning streak that's lasted 8 weeks. The Sensex down 880 points today, 885 to be precise. The Nifty lost about 300 points, down over 1%. The Nifty Realty down 3.5%, and even the Nifty IT index lost about 2.5%. So Realty and IT really taking a bit of a knock and a beating this week. Prashant is standing by now to take us through the market action. Prashant, it's been a global market sell-off that we've seen, starting with the US, traveling to Europe and Asia, and our market's not being spared. What's the outlook from here on?
Well, the market opened lower as was expected because global cues were pretty negative. The US market had basically completely reversed the prior day's gains. Yields had fallen on the 10-year below 4%, and Asia was red in the morning. So the start was to be expected, but the important difference between today's session and the previous so many other sessions is that the dip buying did not come. The market stayed lower, and we ended pretty much at the low point of the day, around the low point of the day. So Nifty on your screen, Nifty Bank did better. There was a bit of a recovery which set in, and that ended more or less flat. Mid caps and small caps about between 0.8 to 1% cuts coming through there. Market breadth was negative. Actually, for the week as well, Friday to Friday, it's small changes. I mean, 0.4% down. Actually, we've got a couple of indices which are up 0.25%. So neither here nor there. That is for the full week. Now, as far as, stocks are concerned, cuts coming through in Eicher Motors. Actually, autos as a pack was weak. Maruti was down. Tata Motors was lower. Hindalco, Wipro, JSW Steel, ONGC and LTI Mindtree were some of the others which stood out. Well, on the other side, basically, HDFC Bank was up. There was Divi's and Dr. Reddy's, which participated as well. Actually, Pharma was one of the few pockets as sectoral indices, which was in the green. Broader markets, I'll start with what was down. So Cummins, Thermax, Titagarh in the industrials complex. IT companies, Birlasoft, Oracle Financial Services sharply lower. UPL reported in the last hour today, disappointing. Escorts was down. You had Imami, which was lower. Repco, Brigade, Kirloskar Brothers were some of the others which were down and out. On the upside, I mean, I think the biggest volume-led gainer across exchanges was Zomato. So stellar results, market responding. Off the highs though, but still over 10% gains. PCBL, Philips Carbon Black, Sanjeev Goenka Group companies, stocks up 25% since Mr. Goenka's interview to CNBC-TV18. Adani Wilmar was a big gainer. Suzlon, there was Paytm, GHCL, Newland Laboratories, SJS Enterprises reacting to strong earnings. So, I mean, the saving grace was that there was enough happening and the market was discerning enough to reward those which had actually done well, earnings or otherwise. The big sort of mover incrementally is going to be global macros, global markets. And I think in that regard, the US monthly jobs data will set the tone when we return on Monday morning. Back to you.
Yes, it certainly will. Prashant, many thanks for joining us. We will have to wait for Monday before the markets resume their action. It has been 3 days since SEBI released a consultation paper prescribing stricter rules for derivative trading in a bid to curb the volumes. Now, whole-time member at SEBI, Anant Narayan, has signalled that the regulator is ready to go beyond the consultation paper and take more action if needed. Speaking at a FICCI event in Mumbai, Narayan equated F&O trading on expiry day to a casino machine and warned of dire consequences if there is a black swan event. Take a look.
Trading in index options specifically close to expiry then starts to resemble a slot machine in a casino, with individuals putting coins into the machine hoping to hit the jackpot. It would be unfair to compare all of equity F&O with a casino and to lose sight of its utility in capital formation. That's not what we are saying. We are talking only about the specific portions of options trading closer to expiry. Even after the current consultation and the final steps that are eventually taken in this regard, we will continue to monitor activity in F&O markets and in a consultative fashion consider fresh steps, both developmental as well as regulatory, as necessary. In addition, both the expert working group for F&O and our secondary market advisory committee will debate other structural issues relating to derivative markets, including ensuring that we are measuring and monitoring risks accurately and ensuring that there is some balance and connect between the underlying cash and derivative markets.
Well, SEBI continues to flag what is happening on the F&O side of the market. And speaking at that same event, SEBI Chief Madhavi Puri Buch has promised to cut down the time taken by the regulator to clear IPO applications. Promising to bring down the time, SEBI Chief said that they are looking at processing IPO papers using artificial intelligence. Take a look.
In the global league tables, India, first of all, ranks #1 on the total number of IPOs and issuances anywhere in the world, with a very, very significant, number there. It's almost one every trading session. The focus we need to bring to clearing applications for capital raise should be brought to a minimum. Pendency is good because it means that there is more and more activity in the market. But what we track like a hawk is the aging.
Well, that's the SEBI chief. Now, the government expects its mop-up from small savings schemes to fall by 11% this fiscal. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 this is because more investors are shifting to equities and mutual funds. Sapna joins us now with more. Sapna, what are you picking up?
Well, exactly as you are indicating, basically the expectation at the government end is that the small savings mop-up is likely to start tapering from the current financial year onwards. And if you look at the kind of budget estimates that they have kept, this year's budget estimate at 4.20 lakh odd crores is 50,000 crores lower than last year's budget estimate and around 70,000 crores lower than last year's revised estimates, because last year also the government was not able to meet the small savings target. They missed it by around 20,000 crores. Now, the government's takeaway here is very clear that probably over the last few months in particular, they're seeing a significant trend of savers and investors moving towards equities and mutual funds. So, from this line, probably what we are given to understand is that maybe the government is all right with this kind of trend. And they seem to have kind of, accepted the fact that, yes, small savings mop-up is going to taper from this year onwards, and that's why the budget number has been kept lower to that extent. Having said that, there is also an indication that some of the schemes that are done extremely well, for example, if you look at the small savings scheme for the senior citizens, that mopped up over 1,10,000 crores in one financial year, that was FY24. Government is not expecting a repeat performance on that scheme in the current year. Also, the Mahila Saman savings scheme, this is going to sunset naturally March 2025. It has a 2-year period in terms of the coupon locked at 7.5%. Now, the fear here is that if the interest rates start falling, then the government will be exposed to an interest rate risk which they don't want to take. So here also the indication is very clear that beyond March 2025, government will not be looking at extension. So overall, maybe they are, they've come around to the fact that yes, savers and investors are moving towards the markets and mutual funds, which may be all right, and accordingly, small savings collections from here onwards are likely to start tapering off. This is the beginning in the current financial year. Coming years may actually make this trend even clearer.
All right, Sapna, many thanks for joining us. Now, Reliance Capital's lenders have warned of legal action against Hinduja Group's IndusInd International Holdings, this for failing to comply with the NCLT's July 23rd order, directing IHL to deposit 2,750 crore rupees by the 31st of July. Reliance Capital's lenders are owed 9,861 crore rupees as part of IIHL's earlier takeover bid for the company. Ritu is here with more on the ongoing dispute. Ritu.
Well, we may just see the lenders reopen the bidding process for Reliance Capital or take other action against Hindujas for failing to comply with NCLT's directions on depositing money for the acquisition of Reliance Capital. Now, we've been given to understand from sources that the Committee of Creditors for Reliance Capital has issued a notice of default to IIHL, which is the Hinduja-led company, for not meeting the deadlines set by a July 23rd NCLT order, which had directed IIHL to deposit 2,750 crores as the equity component of their total offer in an escrow account by 31st July, which is already passed, and to also submit to the monitoring committee copies of the binding executed term sheet for the loan amount of the remaining sum, which is 7,300 crore rupees, to complete the acquisition process by the 10th of August. However, Hindujas, as we've been reporting, had subsequently moved the court to seek modifications in this order, stating that there were several pending conditions that would have to be met before they could deposit this money. Now, while the court is yet to rule on Hinduja's plea, the lenders have now issued this letter to them as a warning that the rights and remedies of the COC are reserved in view of the default, and these remedies, according to our banking sources, could include, like I said, restarting the bidding process or cancelling the letter of intent which was issued to IIHL, among others. So we'll have to see how this moves forward now, but a delay looks inevitable, and in the worst case, perhaps the entire process of sale for Reliance Capital may have to be restarted.
Ritu, many thanks. Some respite for beleaguered tech company Byju's. The Company Law Appellate Tribunal has allowed Byju's to settle its payment dispute with BCCI. Ashma joins us now with more details. So, Ashma, this was anticipated that there would be a settlement. It has now been agreed upon. What are the terms and conditions? With this, the insolvency proceedings rest?
Well, indeed, the insolvency proceedings have been closed. The NCLT order, which allowed for those insolvency proceedings, has been set aside by the NCLT. But, then this is a big but, the but is that the payment schedule that Byju's had undertaken with respect to the BCCI settlement was to end in 2 tranches by August 9th. If that payment is not made, if there is a default by Byju's, the NCLT has held that the insolvency proceedings will be revived. So that's one caveat that they'll need to watch out for. But the broad takeaway, of course, is that the settlement has been approved by the NCLT. The court, the tribunal, granting its blessings to this settlement, saying that we can't close our eyes to a case where a debtor is actually paying the creditor. We can't shut our eyes to that. We'll need to go ahead and allow that. And as a result of that, the insolvency proceedings have been put to rest. A couple of aspects also to bring to our viewers' attention. Number one, Riju Ravindran, who's the younger brother of Baiju Ravindran and also the single largest shareholder of Think and Learn. He has come across as a white knight. He's the one bringing in the money. He's the one bringing in the funds. The NCLT has said that so far there is no evidence that has been brought on board to say that those funds are tainted in any shape or form, that there is any round-tripping of funds secured from US lenders and then being round-tripped here to pay the BCCI. There's no evidence to suggest that. So in light of lack of evidence, there's no reason why the NCLAT cannot accept this settlement, cannot accept this payment. So therefore, the insolvency proceedings being put to rest, a major relief coming in for Byju's.
All right, Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Up next, the death toll due to landslides in Kerala's Wayanad crosses 300. We bring you more when we return on Business 360. The death toll has crossed 300 in Kerala's Wayanad after multiple landslides battered the district 4 days ago. The Army, the NDRF and the SDRF are currently conducting rescue operations in the 3 villages. Around 300 people are still missing. The IMD has predicted that heavy rains will continue for another 2 days in the district. CNN News 18's Neetu brings us this ground report.
The rescue operations are continuing on the 4th day. This day, there has been access to Mundakai area, which has been the worst affected. The rescue teams have brought in equipments like the Hitachi and the JCB to bring in and search for the remains of the people. This entire area in Mundakai has been completely washed away. It's like an entire village has been washed away. Many people are missing. Relatives are waiting to get news about their loved ones. Now, what the state government is doing is that they are conducting the searches in 6 zones. There are several teams deployed in each of these zones and they are conducting thorough search. They are hoping that they will be able to find the remains of the people at the earliest, because it will also give in a closure to the family. So on the 4th day also, the search and rescue operations are continuing after the terrible tragedy has hit Wayanad and Kerala.
Well, the terrible tragedy there from Wayanad. Now, the top bureaucrat in UP has called automobile executives for a meeting after tax incentives to hybrid cars divided the industry. Sources have told us that Hyundai, M&M, Tata Motors and Kia have opposed special treatment. However, Maruti, Toyota and Honda have supported the tax waivers for hybrid vehicles. Parikshit standing by with more details. Parikshit.
Well, this was a move that had strongly divided the Indian automobile industry. The Transport Department had earlier held a meeting with key automakers and they had reviewed the decision, heard their views on it, and there was a thinking that maybe the scheme could also be aligned with the FAME scheme of the government. So currently, it is status quo as far as the UP government hybrid policy goes. There is a tax waiver on hybrid cars, but now the matter has actually reached the table of the top bureaucrat, that is the Chief Secretary's office. He's going to hold a meeting on Sunday because there are sharp divisions. You've got companies like Mahindra & Mahindra, Tata Motors, Hyundai and Kia on one side who are strongly opposing any kind of incentives or special treatment for hybrid vehicles, saying this is not new technology. The Indian industry has been investing heavily in electric vehicles, and this goes against the Indian government's larger vision for electric vehicle transition. On the other, you've got companies like Toyota, Maruti and Honda cars who are saying that a tax waiver on hybrid cars is the right way forward and a welcome step by the UP government. Let's see what decision is taken in the days to come. But earlier, CNBC-TV18 had reported that the state government could come up with a clarification, putting a cap on the price range of vehicles which could get this incentive on hybrid cars.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18. We're back in a moment after this very short break.